Hey everyone, it's Josh, and today I'm going to be giving some homeless self-defense tips. How do you defend yourself as a homeless person when you're threatened with violence, or when violence is at hand? Okay, so I'm going to be giving a few tips out today, and these are basically generalization tips. They're not tips that work in every situation, but these are some basics that you should just keep in mind if you ever go homeless and you're ever in a violent situation with somebody else. Okay, so the first thing to do is to remember to carry some kind of weapon with you. Now, can't carry a gun, obviously, and you can't carry a knife because cops will arrest you if you have a knife, even if you have a legal knife a lot of times. So for me, I didn't carry a knife. A lot of times I carry like a really tiny baseball bat or something like that, or I'd buy a couple of softballs, right? Or a couple of hard balls, like some hard baseballs. And I just have them on hand to, basically smash people with if people attack me. So, and in the wintertime, what you can do is, those big 30, 40 ounce water bottles, Aquafina water bottles that they sell at the gas stations? In the wintertime, this is what I did during the winter. You can freeze those bottles, okay? And a big full 30, 40 ounce water bottle, frozen, will split somebody's wig right open if you hit them in the head with it. So it's a good weapon to have. Now, on to more confrontational type of stuff. Let's say a lot of times when you're homeless and you're out there by yourself, people are not interested in fighting you fair. A lot of times you will not get a fair one-on-one fight as a homeless person. A lot of times what will happen is somebody will roll up on you, start talking smack to you or whatever. So you start talking smack back to them, basically letting them know you're not afraid of them, and you're ready to go if they want to go. A lot of times they'll drive off and they'll come back a couple hours later with their friends, and they'll watch you till you leave that corner, and then they'll roll up on you with 3 or 4 of their friends when they get you on the minute you turn down like a quiet road or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, what do you do in these situations? All of a sudden, you're surrounded by 4 dudes, or you've got 4 dudes in front of you anyway, and you're by yourself, and their whole sole purpose for hurting you or wanting to beat you up or whatever is because you're homeless and they don't like seeing homeless people in their town. Okay, so this is where you've got to be willing to just do what you need to do. Now, my thing is this: don't throw punches. You throw punches, you risk breaking your knuckles, right? Why risk breaking your knuckle on a human piece of garbage that just wants to attack you because you're homeless? Use palm strikes. Wrist bone hits a lot harder than your fist does a lot more damage. So if you're sparring with somebody like that, use palm strikes. All right, they work a lot better. They knock people down a lot easier. There's a lot more force behind them. So don't get into the punching game when you're in a fight as a homeless man. It's just, what for, right? You could win the contest, but again, why mess up your knuckles over somebody who's basically a piece of garbage, right? Okay. Now for me, like when I'm in my fighting stance, I actually fight with my hands open like this. And the reason I do that is because I have pretty good grip strength. So I've always been one of those guys who, if I'm able to get a hold of any part of you, like even like your wrist or your arm or whatever, I can squeeze and cause significant pain. So if you're one of those guys who's got a good grip, you can fight with your hands open. But even if you don't, fighting with your hands open provides a lot of advantages, right? It's better for palm strikes for one. But even if you're gonna like punch, I mean, in a split second you can close your hand for a punch, right? So, fight with your hands open. You know what I'm saying? There's so many advantages to that. Now, my next piece of advice. Remember, you've got 3, 4, at least 2 dudes against you most of the time. Be willing to do something dirty. because you don't know what these people are going to do if they get the upper hand on you. When you're in a fair fight against like a friend of yours or whatever, you can rest assured that they're going to stop once they got you beat. But when you've got these people out here who hate homeless people, if they do get you beat, you don't know if they're going to keep kicking you for like 5 or 10 minutes after they've knocked you unconscious, right? So you got to be willing to do something dirty. Me personally, I have no problem taking my fingers like this and jamming them into somebody's eyeball and just pulling their eyeball right out. And that sounds vicious, it sounds brutal, it sounds dirty, and it is. But again, I don't know what all I know is these other people want to hurt me just because I'm homeless. So I have to assume that these are people who are not right in the head, right? And when you do something dirty like that, or let's say you even do a palm strike, right? Like you palm strike somebody in the nose, right? You break their nose. You got these 4 dudes that are ready to jump you. You knock someone down like that, their nose is bleeding. Those other 3 guys that are standing there, a lot of times aren't going to want any more of you. You know? So all you're going to have to do at that point is wolf a little bit. Who's next? You know what I'm saying? A lot of times they'll back off, start apologizing, or they'll start saying whatever they can to get out of the fight while saving face, if you understand what I'm saying. So be willing to do something hard and first and dirty if you need to. Because if 4 guys like surround you and they just all start wailing you on cue, no human being can beat 4 men who's just wailing on them all at once. It's just not going to happen. But like again, if you got 4 guys in front of you and they come and you just take one of them out right away, whether it's with a palm strike or something dirty or even just a punch in the right spot in the nose, you're going to instill fear in them because they don't want to be next in line for that. And at that point, you've got something of the upper hand. You know, and again, a lot of times they'll back up. And if they don't, just keep doing dirty stuff. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. And that's the brutal, like, just honest truth of, like, how to survive, like, in a fight as a homeless man. Now, I don't fight like this in a normal situation. Like, let's say I go to a bar tonight. And I don't go to bars because I don't drink no more. But let's say I did. Let's say me and some guy got into a fight over, you know, the sports game on TV, right? I wouldn't use any of these dirty tricks. I wouldn't use palm strikes or none of that. I would fight with fists, and I would fight fair. I wouldn't be trying to kick him in the nads or nothing like that. Because there's no real danger there. The worst that he's going to do if he beats me is knock me out and leave it at that, right? So in that situation, I'll fight fair. Or if I get into a fight on my college campus, you know, I can rest assured that I won't be beaten within an inch of my life. So I'll fight that fight fair too. But like in the streets, you know, 9 times out of 10, when you're in a fight as a homeless man in the streets, it's somebody who specifically wants to hurt you, specifically just because you're homeless and they don't like homeless people. So that's what it is. Let me see. Did I get over everything here? Did I go over everything? Okay, so my last bit of advice is this, and I've said this in other videos. I don't talk back to everybody who yells something at me. Like when I was homeless and panhandling, if you just yelled at me, get a job, or just something real quick like that, and you left it at that, a lot of times I didn't say nothing back to you. Because you can't fight everybody who says something like that, right? I mean, you'll be fighting 50 times a day, you won't be able to make no money, right? So you got to ignore that sort of stuff. But if somebody takes it much further than that, they roll their window down and they're just yelling stuff at you constantly, like, right? It's more than just get a job or whatever. That's when you've got to look them in the eyes, and that's when you've got to stand up for yourself. Do what you got to do, cuss. Throw your hands up at them, let them know that you're ready to go. Call them names, whatever you got to do. Let them know that you ain't the one. All right, and then if something happens after that, something happens. A lot of times it won't, especially if the guy's by himself. People are such sissies today. Nobody ever wants to do a fair one-on-one anymore. but especially against like homeless people, right? So now there are occasions where you'll get a fair one with somebody in that situation, but generally not. A lot of times too, if a guy is fighting you one on one, you can bet he's got some kind of knife or something. He's not planning on fighting you fair. So that's just the reality of the situation, and that's just what it is. So those are some of my homeless self-defense techniques. You know what I'm saying? And that's just what it is. So when you find yourself in these situations, make sure you always have weapons with you. In the summer, like I said, carry some baseballs or something else hard like that. Even some 5-pound dumbbell weights. You know, the cops can't arrest you for those. They can arrest you for having a knife, though. Even if it's a legal knife, they'll make up a reason to arrest you for it. And you certainly can't carry a gun in the streets. So, like I said, if it's summer or if it's warmer weather, have some baseballs or something else hard like that. Or have a hammer with you. I carried a hammer a lot. Like, having a hammer is good because hammers can do some damage, and it's perfectly legal to have a hammer in any and every situation. During the winter, like I said, frozen water bottles are good if you don't got a hammer or whatever. Like one of those bigger bottles of water, frozen. You can hurt somebody with that. So that's all for today. My Cash App's link down below. Please show your love. That's all for today.